Welcome to Whippoorwill Holler. I'm Miss Lori, and this is Mr. Brown. We live in the hills of Arkansas. We love the Lord. Keepers of the old way, but accept some of the new. We love to cook, and we love to eat. We love to garden. It's in our blood. It's how we stay sustainable and fill our pantry. We do a lot of canning and preserving. We live a sustainable life. We love our family. We work hard. And every once in a while, we like to dance. So y'all join us. So I want to show y'all around just a little bit. I want you to look at this sweet little water can, antique. It's got oregano in it. This was given to me for my retirement, and I love it. This is some of my hens and chicks, and I need to start some more. I need to take some out and start another one or two. And back here in this chicken feeder that I got at a flea market, I'm planting succulents in it. I need to get me a few more to fill in the spaces, but I just love it. I love stuff like this. And this over here is just a hodgepodge of a little bit of everything. This is an old baby pig feeder that was bought for me at a flea market, and I've got succulents in it and a vine. And there's roses and elephant ears. My granddaughter planted some zinnias in that little bucket. And I've got a bunch of zinnias planted in this wash tub, and it has mint, and there's just a lot going on in here. And the roses, they really bloomed, and now they kind of quit. And this has got a hodgepodge of a bunch of stuff too. It's even got some wildflowers in it that I just let them grow and bloom. It's got hostas and ferns, and it's got some lantana and roses and just all kinds of stuff going on in it. I need to really get in there and clean it up a little bit. But I love this old stuff sitting around. I guess I've just got an old vintage soul. And we're big on rocks around here, as you can tell. This right here is a beautiful hydrangea bush that last spring I planted it, and it was just a stick of a bush. And I want you to look how much it has grown since this spring. It has just absolutely taken off, and I hope it gets huge. But when it started blooming, it was just snow white blooms, and now the blooms are turning pink. And I just think they're beautiful. And I hope this bush just keeps growing and growing and getting so big, because I absolutely love it. Like I said, I just bought one little stick. It was just a little stick that I bought, and I planted there, and this is what it's turned out to be. It's beautiful. I did not know that the blooms would turn pink, though. And we have tree stumps everywhere on this place. This was a lot of timber in here, and we've had to cut a lot of trees down that were dead. And we just leave the stumps, and I just put little planters on them with flowers and stuff. There's some purple irises that have come back up. Some wild plants that are coming up. And I like planting stuff in between the rocks. I think it looks more natural. When we bought this place, it's just full of big rocks. And my baby chickens, they think they have to be around me if I'm outside, and they get into everything. You got to shoo them off. But they'll be laying me some eggs pretty soon. And this is one of my old hens. She's pretty. This is lamb's ear. This just grew in by itself in this little planter. The leaves are so soft. They used to use this just like you would toilet paper. This bed right here is in front of my greenhouse, and I don't know if y'all remember, but last year it was full of zinnias. This year, it looks like it's full of grass and weeds, but what it is I took a couple big packages of wildflowers, and I just strode them all over this bed. So it's full of wildflowers that haven't bloomed yet, but I've done that for the bees and my butterflies. You can see some of them are starting to bloom. And there is some bee balm, and there's some coneflower in here too. But that's just full of wildflowers. And I'm excited for them all to start blooming. I wanted to show you my sweet potatoes. Now, y'all see me planting my sweet potatoes over a month ago. But you can see they're doing good. They're crawling up, they're vining, and I want them to crawl up my trellis, and that's what they're doing. The leaves look good and healthy, and you can eat the leaves of your sweet potato vine. And I know you look at this and you say, boy, there's a lot of grass out in that garden, but that grass is putting nutrients back into our soil. If that was bare ground, it would just deplete itself of any kind of nutrients. And Danny's potatoes are doing pretty good. We won't be digging those till about around the 4th of July. Some of them are starting to bloom. So we'll have some potatoes pretty soon. Our green beans are starting to come up. We're later than other people in planting our garden. So we've got green beans and okra. The okra really come up good. And these are the 2 troughs that used to be out in front of the house. And this is where I planted tons of zinnias. And this is my first one that bloomed. Isn't it so pretty? Such pretty colors. But I can't wait for them all to start blooming, because I planted all these so I could have cut flowers for inside the house. And these will, as long as I cut them, and they'll keep blooming. They'll keep putting on zinnias and keep blooming plumb up to first frost. So I'll have cut flowers for months and months. This little bed here, I didn't plant much in it. I just planted this squash, and then I planted all the marigolds around it to help the bugs. And then I planted another squash plant to come later on. I don't like all my squash to come off at once. And this bed here, it's in front of my greenhouse, or not my greenhouse, but my high tunnel. And it is full of just herbs and municipal plants, herbs, things that I plant for my bees and my butterflies. It's just full, and it's full of oregano and spearmint. Some of the stuff has been here planted for years. And I took the plastic off my high tunnel. I'm probably going to have to pretty soon put my shade cloth up. I need to plant some flowers in that container. And back there you can see my cucumbers and my green beans, and I've got squash, and I've got bee balm back there in that container. It's full. Here is some yarrow and different wildflowers, municipal plants that I have planted from seed that's coming up. I love having stuff for my bees and my butterflies. And this is a yellow yarrow. There's different color yarrows. Look how pretty. Isn't that the prettiest blush pink or salmon color? So if my cucumbers put off really good, like it looks like they're going to, we're going to have plenty of cucumbers. Me and Danny like raw cucumbers in our salads and just to eat with ranch dip. We're not big pickle eaters though. Usually when I make relish and stuff, I actually use my zucchini and squash to make relish. And I do have videos on that. So I just have my cucumbers just climbing up this small trellis here. And that's all the cucumbers that I planted for this year. But it will be plenty for us. I use DE on if there's something like bugs or something getting on my cabbage and stuff. That is my muscadine vine. And I've got some Cherokee purple tomatoes planted under them. So that vine will kind of help shade my tomatoes just a little bit because the sun really bears down right here on this corner. And Danny loves Cherokee purple tomatoes. Y'all, you can't go camping without Paul's coffee, his cowboy coffee. And he's got to have that fire just right because that coffee's got to perk for a good 5 minutes to make it perfect. Paul loves his first cup of coffee in the morning. That's his first cup, and the sun is shining on him. He's ready for the day now. So we're going to get ready and go to the lake here in a little bit. But not till after we cook up a bunch of bacon and make some French toast for breakfast. And we're heading down to the lake for the kids to play. And of course for Paul to play too. I'm really surprised, y'all, that Paul got in that lake. It was a little bit cold, but he done it. And if you look behind him, that is the aqua park that's fixing to open up about a little after 12. And all these kids are going to run over there and they're going to play on that aqua park. It's only open at a certain time during the day. It's part of their resort, but you do have to buy a ticket for it. And it's different prices on different days. Look at Paul. He's got a rough life. Really nice beach. We are camping at Crown Lake at Horseshoe Bend, Arkansas. It has a wonderful RV park. It's clean. It's got a wonderful store. It's got a walking path and all kinds of things for kids to do. It's got a little house and cabins to rent, things to do on the lake. You've got an outdoor pool and a beautiful beach, beautiful white sand, putt-putt golf, indoor pool, a hot tub, and just being out with nature. So if you like the outdoors, Crown Lake at Horseshoe Bend, Arkansas. Watch the sun go down or sit on the beach. It's a wonderful place to take your family. You see Riker? I can't see who he is. Where is that?
No, he's right there. Levi's getting up.
Levi's getting up.
Riker's getting up.
Okay. See him now.
I say they're going to go to his slides.
Riker. He'll crawl. He don't have no balance. Where'd Levi go? He done left him. There he is. Riker's so short-legged. Is Levi, is he going up the... I've lost him. I've lost Levi.
He went behind the... There he is down there low.
He must have fell in the water too. I think Rocker fell in. Or is he at, where's he at, on top? Slide?
I think it's him, yeah, it's him.
Where'd he go? Oh.
He disappeared in the water.
I figure he don't like that life jacket. It kind of hinders you. Okay, Levi's going up the
Rope.
rope. Ah. Did Rocker get up? There he is. Come on, Levi, get up there. Oops. Did Rocker fall?
Yeah.
In the water they go.
They get faster, they get it wet.
He's trying to get up the...
Oh, you can jump off there.
Whenever I'm in Walmart, I always go by and look at the bread that they put on sale. They always have, seems like French bread. And these were 27 cents a loaf. And they weren't even out of date. They had another day before they'd be out of date. And I put them in the freezer when I got home, and I took them out. And now I'm going to make some croutons out of them. These French breads like this make the best croutons. And, I mean, you can't beat it, you know, when they're 27 cents. How can you beat that price? So I can chunk these up into crouton size pieces, and I can have a lot of croutons made up. My family love homemade croutons. And with these croutons, you can also make like bread stuffing. You can make, you can grind them up in your processor and make breadcrumbs. And that's what I'm going to do with some of mine, because I do use breadcrumbs in a lot of my recipes. So you got 3 different things that you can use these for: salads, bread stuffing, and breadcrumbs. I also end up using, probably, if I ever have any homemade bread left, that's which ain't very often, but if I do, you know, homemade bread doesn't, it gets dried out pretty fast. It gets stale before your store-bought because it don't have any preservatives in it. And if I have a hunk of it left and I'm needing some croutons, I just cut it up just like I'm doing this French bread, and make some homemade croutons out of them. And they're delicious too. You can cut these up in any bite-sized pieces you want. We do like ours kind of big, anywhere from a ½ inch to 1 inch. We like them big croutons. Now, if I make homemade croutons, if the family's coming over and I'm making a salad and I'm making homemade croutons, you see some of them are pretty big, but that's okay. And you want to get them pretty much the same size if you can. But I'll make some homemade croutons, and what I'll do is I'll toss them in a little bit of olive oil and some seasoning like Parmesan, garlic, Italian seasoning, and I'll either toast them up in a skillet or I'll stick them in the oven. But I'm not going to do these with olive oil because I want these for long-term storage. And if you put oil on them, olive oil or any kind of oil on them, and then try to keep them for long-term storage, you see how big those are, they could go rancid on you. So I'm not going to put any oil on them. I will put a little bit of seasoning on some of them, not all of them. But I'll just put them on there and hope for the best that some of the seasoning will stick to it. My kids and grandkids, they love to come over for Sunday dinner and see the homemade croutons and the homemade ranch dressing. They love it. So I've just got one of the racks that come out of my dehydrator, and I'm just going to place the pieces on here in one layer. You don't want to double layer them or anything like that. So a while back I bought me a new dehydrator. I had my old ones. I've had them for years, and in fact I give one of them away because I wanted a bigger one. I wanted a different kind. This is what I bought was a Denali. And if you know anything about Denali, they make canning products like canning lids and stuff like that. But now they have a dehydrator. And I read the reviews on it, and it really got good reviews. So I thought, well, I'm just going to try this one. And I'm really pleased with it. I really like this dehydrator. So I'm just going to continue to cut up my bread and put it on my racks. Now I found a piece of homemade bread. And you see it's just the end hunk of it. And it is kind of drying out. So I think I'm going to slice it up and chunk it up into croutons. We've been eating on this bread all week, making sandwiches and toast. And I think the grandkids got a hold of it while it was still hot, still warm. They love when that hot bread comes out in the oven, and they don't even want me to wait very long. This one I made in a bread machine, and it turns out so good every time. And I don't have to heat the house up. Makes really good sandwich bread. My two favorite ways anymore of making homemade bread is either in my wood cook stove during the winter. In the summertime anymore, I love making it in the bread machine because I do not have to turn my oven on. It'll heat your house up in no time. Do y'all like homemade croutons? I'm surprised. I mean, those, I have ate them out of the store. And some of them, I'm telling you, are so hard I can't even bite into them. Especially with my dentures. I cannot bite into them. And these here get really, really crunchy and dry too. But they don't seem to be as hard as the ones you buy in the grocery store. And you can take these croutons, like during the summertime when you're getting fresh tomatoes. Make sure you have some of these croutons with a chunked up tomato. It's really good with a little bit of Italian seasoning and salt and pepper. Now I'm going to take the rest of my croutons that I have left over, and I am going to season them, but I'm not going to put any oil on it. So I'm just going to hope for the best. I've got just about a cup, almost a cup of Parmesan, and I've got 2 teaspoons of Italian seasoning. And I think what I'm going to do is get me a little bit of garlic to put on it too. I think that'll be good. Not very much, probably just about teaspoon and a half or so. And just mix that up good. So I'm just going to sprinkle it over my bread and mix it up really good and just hope for the best that most of the croutons will get the seasoning and all that on it, and taste really good. I just don't want to take the chance of putting oil on it and putting it up and not eating them fast enough and them getting rancid. I mean, that's just a waste of money and time. So I'm just going to do it this way. Now, my dehydrator has a tray that goes in the bottom of the dehydrator that catches any kind of crumbs, like breadcrumbs or seasoning or anything. And that way you can take that bottom tray out, solid tray, and just wash it. There's already a little bit of breadcrumbs in the bottom of this bowl. Okay, I've got all of my bread cut up and in my dehydrator, my Denali dehydrator. It's 6 trays. I'm doing it at 149 degrees for 4 hours, and they should be perfect. But I really do love this thing. It's easy to work. It does a great job. And, I mean, it's long, but it's not wide, so it won't really take up a lot of room on your counter. But I've got mine up here on my top shelf. I can reach it, and it just kind of hangs out there. It's easy to get to and use. Now here is our bread after we've dehydrated it, and you can see, and probably, I don't know if you can hear that or not, how crunchy that is. That's dry. That is completely dry. There's no moisture inside this, and that's what you want for them to, especially to keep longer in your shelf. So I can use these on a salad like croutons. You can make bread stuffing out of these. And what I'm going to show you is I do use breadcrumbs every once in a while for different recipes. So you can make these into breadcrumbs really easy. So I've just got my small little blender here, but what I'm going to do, my processor, and I'm just going to take, sometimes the ratio of a cup of these to make a cup of breadcrumbs doesn't always work out. So I just usually get a couple handfuls, and I go ahead. Now, if I want to make enough to store, I just get me a mason jar with a good lid. And just as long as these are completely dry through and through, you're going to be okay, and they're going to be shelf stable for quite a while. And you can even put these in maybe Mylar bags or something like that, or your vacuum seal bags. That would be really good too. But what I'll do, and I've just got it in one of these with a lid on it, but since I've got them done, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make me some breadcrumbs, plus I'm going to find me a quart jar or maybe a half a gallon jar, and put the rest of my croutons in there. So they'll last me on the shelf. I know with them being dry like this that it'll last me a couple of months, but I don't figure I'm going to have them that long, because we do eat salads. And when I have the kids over, they absolutely love homemade croutons and homemade ranch dressing. So I'm just going to take a couple handfuls and put them in my processor. I don't like to fill it up completely, because sometimes one this small kind of gets, it's hard on it. Now, if you're making breadcrumbs to put a meatloaf or something like that, you don't have to do it as fine. But if you're wanting it to make like chicken parmesan or something like that, you do want it ground up kind of fine. And there's nothing any better than homemade breadcrumbs when you need it in some kind of recipe. So I'm just going to take it out. and put it in my little mason jar here. I'm going to do another handful, and you can do enough to, I'll probably do enough to fill up my mason jar. That's what I'll do. That way I'll have it. And usually if I'm making chicken parm or something like that, it depends on how many I'm feeding. I could use this whole mason jar full when I'm feeding quite a few people. Now the ones that I had put a little bit of Parmesan, all that on there, they're in here too. So it's going to be good either on the salad or already seasoned up for my breadcrumbs. But I also like to add just a little more to it. I like to add a little more oregano and parm to it when I'm making chicken parm. Okay, what I'm going to do is you add whatever spices that you know that you want in whatever recipe you're using. And I'm going to put in probably a teaspoon of garlic powder. And then I've got, this says oregano on it, but this is what when I harvest my herbs: basil, rosemary, thyme, oregano. I put it in a coffee grinder and I grind it all up together, and then I put it in here. So this is pretty much my homemade Italian seasoning. And I don't really measure out. I just kind of grind it, put some in there and grind it up, and that's what I go with. But I'm going to put a couple of teaspoons of my Italian seasoning in that. You know what? I'm going to put 3. I'm going to put about 3 teaspoons. And then I'm just going to shake it up real good. Now, I will put Parmesan in here, but because I try to use fresh Parmesan if I can find it, I put it in last. Right before I'm going to use my breadcrumbs, I will grate up some Parmesan and put in here. Now, if you're not going to be using this pretty quick, this will stay good in a good sealed jar for a couple weeks. I know in the summertime, our homes seem to be humid, especially here in Arkansas. You could keep it in the refrigerator, but it could draw moisture in there too. The best bet would be if you make a bunch of it up, put it in the freezer. Just like you would bread. So there it is. That is my homemade breadcrumbs. So many things you can do when you dehydrate bread. For croutons, for your salads, for breadcrumbs, for making stuffing, just whatever. It's a good, frugal idea, and it's delicious too. Well, I hope that y'all had a wonderful weekend, and me and Danny's kind of been AWOL for the last couple of weeks, but we're back home right now for a little while, and we got a lot to catch up on, the garden and things here at the house. And of course, I'm retired now, and it hasn't sunk in yet, but I know I'm going to have a lot more time to get things done and not be in such a stressed out anxiety mess. Just trying to keep everything going. Mr. Brown helps me a lot, but you know, it's a job, and I'm going to be here more for y'all too. So that right there makes me really happy. But anyways, I just want to come in because this is what I was doing. So if I'm doing something, I might as well just bring y'all here with me in the kitchen. And making these homemade croutons was #1 on my list for this week. and getting that done because I had that bread that I bought cheap, and then I had some of that homemade bread left over, and so there you go. Gives y'all an idea of homemade, better for you, and frugal. So a little walk around in the garden. We're not putting in a biggest garden this year because we're going to be doing some traveling, but we won't. I cannot have a garden. I need to come home and be in my garden. So yeah, and just little bits and pieces, but I just wanted to come be with y'all. So we will be back. I'm going to do some recipes here this week too. Y'all absolutely love our cooking for two, so we're going to be doing that this week too. And I really don't know what else. Danny won't be digging potatoes till around the 4th of July, so we had to replant the green beans. I done told y'all that, but it's just busy, just like it is at your house. So y'all have a wonderful, wonderful week. Be safe, be blessed, and we'll be back in a few days. We love y'all so much.
I've climbed the mountains in Montana, danced in the lights of New Orleans. Portland ran away with me, and San Francisco stayed with me. Nashville made its way